Hi, I'm Kathy Johnson. Welcome to Town Talk. I have with me today my guest, Michelle Cotton, and she's going to talk about physical fitness, diet. She's a personal trainer, and what was the name of your company you hope to start, Michelle?
I hope to start Agility Fitness because I hope to concentrate on the average person to the elite, which, you know, the average person who needs to lose 50 to 100 pounds and then get them to, you know, the elite status or just the elite athletes also. So that encompasses everything. In other words, get more agility, get more moving.
I guess we're a nation that we really have to start moving.
That's
a lot
the
of
problem.
sedentary people, including myself. Now, you have quite a story on how you got started with this. I think, of course, our hour goes very fast, but I think that our audience should hear a little something about yourself and how you got yourself into being interested in diet and fitness and personal training.
Well, I don't consider myself like a big deal, but the thing is, I was overweight, unfortunately in a bad marriage, and my ex-husband kept telling me, well, you know, I have the love per pound formula for you. The more you weigh, the less I love you.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, of course, we're divorced now.
Right.
But, you know, I gained a lot of weight. You know, I was up 80 pounds and, you know, overweight and miserable and everything. And, you know, I met someone else after we got divorced, and he's the love of my life. And, you know, we started going out and, you know, doing stuff and everything, and we got married, and then we tried to get pregnant. And overweight and trying to get pregnant is a no-no, especially when you're approaching 35. So,
Right.
you know, they said, you know, really need to lose weight. So I started hitting the gym, and I was there 3 hours a day, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't really lose that much weight. So I started going through infertility treatments because we had no problem. So they said, let's just try it. Well, 4 rounds of infertility treatments, they add a lot of weight. So every time I would lose weight in the gym, I would gain it back. So it was a yo-yo.
Losing battle there.
Big time. 2 steps up, 3 steps back, constantly. So, you know, we finally did get pregnant. You know, knock on wood, I have my baby bug, Mikey, and he's 5 years old now.
Right.
But, you know, I was about 3 months postpartum, and he had just been diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, so we were dealing with that. And like I said, I was overweight. I was almost the same size as I was pregnant as after I gave birth. I'd only lost a few pounds. So, you know, I went up to 80 and then went down to 70 pounds maybe overweight, and I was changing one day and saw myself naked in the mirror.
That's an eye-opener,
yeah,
isn't it?
I throw it all out there. So, you know, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I said, I'm done. So one of my friends at work, Castell, you know, she saw that I started losing weight when I came back, and she started encouraging me. And that's all I needed, you know, is the encouragement and getting back in the gym. And, you know, from my son being diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, he requires constant attention. So that's very hard to get, you know, into the gym. I also, like I was telling you before, I have a very bad thyroid. And I also have a very, very bad case of asthma. So, you know.
Boy, you had a lot going against you.
Yeah.
How did you figure out? Now, it's one thing to go to the gym. You said a couple of things there that interested me. Even as much as you go to a gym, and a lot of people don't realize this, you're not going to get thin just with the gym.
No.
You need. Now, how did you know instinctively what to eat?
Well, I didn't at first, and that's what killed me, because 3 hours in the gym, you're burning a lot of calories. But if you're going home and eating the pizza or whatever, it's not going to happen. Over the years, I've done a lot of studying and stuff, and found, you know, if you look at your macronutrients, your calories, your calories intake, in other words, eat less calories than you use. So calories in, calories out. So if you eat less calories and burn more, so in other words, get off the couch, get to the gym, but do an hour, don't do 3 hours. Stay mobile, try to have a goal of walking a day. I now wear a pedometer, and I try to get about 10,000 steps, which is about 4 or 5 miles. That's a lot of walking. You don't think of it at first until you start doing it.
Right.
Look at your macronutrients and actually journal it. You know, journal what you're eating a day.
What's a macronutrient?
It's your protein, your carbs, and your fats, and your fiber. You have to really equalize them. A lot of people say, you know, okay, do the Atkins or whatever, you know. It doesn't work because it's not specialized to you. You would have to get your age, your activity level, you know, your weight, you know, everything, and actually calculate how many you should be eating a day of grams of fats, carbs, and proteins. And that's how you'd lose weight.
And you know that part of it. That's part of your when you're doing personal training, you're able to work that out for the person.
Yes. And that's the thing, because of all the studying I did, I went and became a personal trainer. Actually, I just got my certificate last week.
Oh, congratulations.
Got in the mail last night. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So, you know, I could do that now, and I'm actually taking the boards for fitness nutritionist too, so I could do the food plans also.
Right.
So the state of Connecticut will allow me to do that.
Right.
So, you know, but the thing is, you have to create a good workout plan, but you also have to create a good food plan.
Right.
So it's not, like I said, you have to get something personalized just for that particular person.
Right.
What works for me may not work for you.
Right. Right.
And that's the only thing, that the fad diets, the books, throw them all away. You know, seriously, it doesn't work.
I would say, logically, they always say everything in moderation. I suppose
Yes.
that everybody should eat a little something of everything. It depends on the amounts and the times a day. I know myself as a type 2 diabetic, and I have low thyroid condition, so I've got two things stacked against me, as you said for yourself. I know that I always think of sugar and carbs as my complete enemy. I'm so afraid to go near them, and yet when I don't have them, I feel like I'm craving something all the time, and I'm feeling. Well, I remember the Italian mothers used to say, "Eat, you'll feel better."
Yeah. Well, you feel better, but you know,
then,
it's like that's the problem. you know,
you'll feel better for the moment.
That's the thing. It's like everybody says, okay, don't eat carbs. Well, you need carbs. You need carbs to think. I mean, watch Survivor or any of those shows. You know, they go 2 days and they can't even think through their puzzles and stuff. They can't even fathom what they have in front of them because they're not eating carbs anymore. You know, I mean, if you watch anybody fasting, it's like they get cranky very fast.
Without the carbs.
And that's why I'm a proponent of Weight Watchers. You know, that was one of the first things I did, was go to Weight Watchers and re-sign up, because I'd done it years ago. And, you know, they're a very good proponent of, you know, watching what you eat. I mean, I don't agree with the point system. I agree with watching your actual calories and macronutrients. But when you're first starting, you don't want to be calculating all day long. You want something simple, and that is a perfect starting point. And I still do Weight Watchers. I mean, you know, I'm on lifetime status. You know, I've hit my goal, and I go back and do talks and everything for my I was gonna say trainer for my lady there. I mean, she's fantastic, Jeannie. She's the best. So she's helped me through a lot. But that's the thing, like you said before, do everything in moderation. You know.
Well, that Weight Watchers diet's been around for a long time. It was called the old exchange diet. Yeah. And I remember when I was just about ready to be married in 1969, my mother was 180 pounds. She was only 5'2", and I wanted to take off some extra weight just to look better in a wedding gown.
Everybody does.
So we both went to Weight Watchers, and Jean Nidich was the head then. And we did the old-fashioned diet. It was very limited, but it was the exchange. And my mother got down to 110 pounds, and I went from about 125 to 118. Wow. And we were the mother and the bride and the mother of the bride, who were going to look good. And my mother was the biggest loser in the valley, and consistently, and she got to be on stage with Jean Nidich.
Oh, wow.
So I was very proud of her. But I digress about me, but we'll talk more about this. So that diet has been tried and true. It has worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tweaked over the years, but I mean, that works, honestly. So, you know, I always say, you know, like I was talking before about lap bands and stuff like that, I don't agree with them, but whatever gets you to your journey, you need, like, I call it my epiphany moment when I was looking in that mirror. I mean, you need that epiphany moment. whatever gets you to go to your journey and then gets you started on your journey. Like I run a Facebook page, you know, for people who are starting their journey, and actually there's a lot of athletes now on there too. I have like 800 followers in the last 6 months, and I do the tip of the day, stuff like that. And I always say, what you have to get this going first.
It happens
Because
in
if you
your
don't
head
have
first.
this in the game, that you're not going to do it.
No.
Don't do it for the reunion in 2 weeks. You're not going to lose 100 pounds in 2 weeks.
No.
Don't do it for the wedding in 3 weeks. You know,
Right.
like if you gave yourself obviously
A
enough
long time. Yes, months.
Most people
Months
wait
and
till
months.
last possible second and then come to me, because I've had a lot of friends, you know, come to me and say, help me. Don't ask me to help you a week before, because it's just not going to happen. You have to be realistic. You have to lose like a pound a week or less. If you could do that and still hit your goal, then you have enough time to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't rush these things.
No.
That's for sure.
Because then you'll go back too. You'll go back to where you were.
Well,
and
you know something that I think a lot of people who have been very slim all their lives, and I would like to ask you your take on this. They've been slim all their lives. They have no concept of what it's like to fight weight.
No.
They think that if you just shut your mouth and stopped eating, and what they may realize is that the person that's overweight is not eating even anywhere near what you're eating. The problem, I have always believed, doesn't happen anywhere else but your brain chemistry. And we all have different brain chemistries. And if
everybody's different.
And if your brain is wired to have an addiction to certain foods, or it's wired that way, you're almost fighting your own
chemistry,
which is almost, it's like fighting anything in this world. You're going to be
it's like any other addiction.
Right.
Honestly,
Anything.
it's the same thing that
Anything.
smokers go through, and I know a lot of people will fight that I just said that, but honestly, like I
It
have a
is.
group that I belong to, and we always talk about stuff like that. And it's true. If you are an addictive person with food or whatever it is, you can't just shut that off.
No.
I honestly, I am still a food addict. I mean, I want to go for pizza. I could eat a large pizza the size of this table with no problem.
Sure, I could too.
I can't let myself do that. That's why I tell, you know, people that I'm trying to work with, if you can't have the willpower to do one meal like that a week, like a lot of people say, I want a cheat meal.
Then leave it alone.
Yeah, if you can't deal with the one cheat meal and not let it snowball into a cheat week, cheat month, cheat year, don't do it. If you can do it, by all means, have the pizza one day a week. I mean, you should be able to eat normal also.
Well,
and that's the other thing that I like to tell
I
people.
agree, and it's a genetic disorder. It's a you get the genes of, if you're going to be prone to overweight, the genes are there. If you're going to be prone to a lot of things, there's a lot of genetic. Type 2 diabetes, I've known people 600 pounds, 500 pounds that aren't diabetic. They just aren't genetically programmed to be. On the other hand, I am, and so losing weight helps, but it doesn't change the picture.
No.
And so people just don't get it. It's funny how you get judged by those kind of things.
I go back to Weight Watchers meetings and people look me up and down like that. And one guy actually, I swear to God, he came to me and he took me aside and he whispered to me, he goes, "Why are you still here?" I was offended. I was absolutely offended. And I was like, well, I am an addictive personality with food. And I actually talked to my leader that night and said, "Can you let me talk for a second?" And I did. And I said, you know, I have a problem too. That's why I still go to the meetings, to screw my head back on, I call it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get your head back in the game. If you have a bad day at work, you want to go home, have a drink, have a pizza, have a donut, whatever, you know, is available. And that's not good, you know, I mean, but, you know, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But, you know, I'll have the drink and then the donut and then the pizza and then the next day have the drink, the donut, the pizza, you know, and you keep
mine
on going.
Doesn't stop either.
No, it never stops.
It's foolish. It's like an alcoholic. I'll go into the bar and have one drink.
Yeah.
Isn't going to happen.
No.
But so now we know you're a personal trainer, and we know you focusing on diet, exercise. I've always been interested. What's better, weight-bearing exercises or cardio?
That's a loaded question, honestly, because I say, like, women always go to cardio. You see the women on the treadmills and stuff like that at the gym, and you see the men on the weights. And I think that's wrong. The men need the cardio also. The women need the weights also.
So-
There needs to be a happy medium for everybody, depending on what your goals are. So if you just want to lose weight, yeah, you should always still be doing cardio. You need heart health. You need, your good lung output, in other words, respiratory output. But you need to lift weights. If you just stand there and lift weights and just do bicep curls, stand there next time at the gym and just do bicep curls, you will feel your heart pounding. That's cardio. So you're doing both at the same time. I honestly recommend 5 to 6 times a week, at least a half hour a time, and split it between cardio and strength training depending on what your goals are.
Sure.
So, and like I said, every plan is different. It's personalized to the person. So, if you want to lose weight in the beginning, yeah, do it a little bit heavier with cardio. As you progress, change it up to a little bit more strength training.
Right.
I do 1 day of cardio and 5 days of strength training now. I changed gyms. I belong to a boxing gym now, and called Fighting Fitness. They're great. They're really, really great. And I get a little bit of cardio. I do kettlebells, which are excellent cardio.
Right.
You sweat like crazy. It's a really good workout.
Wow. Wow.
But the other thing is, do a little bit of everything. Don't just hit the weights and hit the treadmill. Hit the weights, hit the treadmill. Your body kind of gets used to it, and you'll plateau again. So mix it up. Take a boxing class. Take a kettlebell class. Take a Zumba class. Take whatever.
So here we are back to a little bit of everything.
Everything in moderation.
The food.
If you
the
could live
exercise.
like that, you're good.
If
It's that
only
simple.
We could. I know.
It's that simple. And that's what people don't understand. Like, that's why I started losing weight, and that's actually why I started running, because I started watching Biggest Loser years ago. And I thought it was a joke, honestly. And then I really started paying attention when I started losing a few pounds. I started paying attention to what Jillian Michaels was actually saying. And these 500-pound people were on the treadmill, and they're doing like 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off. I'm like, I could do that. Yeah, I went outside and ran for 10 seconds and was on the side of the road dry heaving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first time you run, you want to die, but you can do it. What I did is I went online. There's a free program called Couch to 5K, C to 5K. And what it does, it tells you how to do that essentially. Do HIIT training. Do run fast, and then walk. Run fast and walk. But do more walking at first and less running. And slowly switch it up. It's easy. I mean, you don't think of it like that, but it is easy. It's science. That's all it is.
So
I have a science background, so
So we'll go into your science background a little bit, but so how much did you lose altogether?
80 pounds.
80 pounds. That's what my
I
mother
actually
lost.
had it tattooed on my arm just to remind myself every day.
80 pounds.
Yes.
80 pounds. And your last remark was you have a scientific background.
Yes.
Explain a little bit about your scientific background.
I've been doing x-ray for 22 years, so I had to do a lot of physics because now I'm an MRI tech. I've been doing that 20 years. Actually, this year will be 20 years at my company, too.
Oh, the Johnson family knows about that. My husband constantly after his cancer, but anyway.
Oh, yeah. And
So-
it's a great job. It's, a lot of science, a lot of computers, a lot of, dealing with people and stuff. But it's sad because, you're diagnosing stuff. You're the first person to see that brain tumor.
Oh.
The person doesn't know, the doctor doesn't know, nobody knows but you. It's horrible, you know, but especially when it's kids and stuff. But, I still have, that moment where, you're sad. It's like you still have to have that personable,
Right.
That moral part of your brain still,
Exactly right. Hard to detach a little bit like that, but you have to do the job and get it done, and that. So now, let's talk. What would you like to touch on next? I want to talk about your son.
Yeah, that's why I started losing weight to get pregnant with him, and we couldn't get pregnant. And 4 rounds of infertility treatments later, we got pregnant. Well, when they do that little heel stick, nobody really notices it. They take a little bit of blood when the baby is first born, the first few minutes of life.
Yes.
And they do a blood test. Most people think they're just blood typing. They're not. They're actually testing for hundreds of rare disorders.
Right.
And unfortunately, he won the genetic lotto.
Oh, my goodness.
There's He has a rare genetic disorder called a fatty oxidation disorder, or FOD. It's called SCADD.
Fatty oxidation disorder. Okay.
Yeah, everybody usually starts to get a glazed look when I get to this point,
Okay,
because
go
it's very difficult. But in other words, he can't process fats.
Now, how many people, you told me before the show, how many people in the world have this?
As far as we know, on the support group, there's about 500 people in the world
My God.
that we could guesstimate. The problem with that is a lot of these kids were dying, and they were just said, oh, well, they have SIDS, because they couldn't figure out why they died. They would die in their sleep. Because as a newborn, I mean, you have a child, the first goal is to get your child to sleep through the night, right? Well, the first time they would sleep through the night, they would pass away because they need nutrients every so many hours when they're first born. I was feeding my son every 2 hours for his first year almost. Try to get up every 2 hours.
Now, were you nursing?
I tried, but I wasn't producing. I think it was
okay.
because I was overweight and everything else,
Can
honestly.
a nursing mother fulfill that in a baby?
If
Do
you're
know?
producing a hell of a lot.
Okay.
Most people end up giving up after a while. You know, I
But the
found the
mother's
support
milk
group,
can
and it gives enough nutrients, but you have to produce a lot.
Well, see, I was a leader in the Leche League, and of course, the more the baby nurses, the more you make. But I don't know if
Not all the time, though, unfortunately.
If he doesn't want to nurse every half an hour, then you're in trouble there.
Yeah.
But, okay.
And also, so I tried to pump, but try pumping and try staying on schedule with your newborn, and then try go back to work after 3 months.
Well, I know.
It just didn't work
It's
after
very
a while.
difficult to do, yes, yes.
So, you know, we saw the geneticist at Yale, and then we switched to CCMC, Connecticut Children's Hospital. They're fantastic.
Right.
They pretty much said every child is different. Same thing.
Even with that disorder.
Yeah, like there's subcategories, in other words. Fatty oxidation disorder has a bunch of different types. I mean, there's like probably 20 or 30 that are diagnosed now, and the diagnoses are changing every day. So we don't know, you know, he might have a slightly different one. You never know, it might change.
Now, that's definitely
But-
genetic. And you said you and your husband both had
Yeah,
the
you
gene?
both have to be carriers, at least carriers.
Oh, my
And then
goodness.
you have a 25% chance with every single pregnancy of having a child with that disorder if you're both carriers.
Oh, my goodness.
So we had 4 embryos. They split it up to 2 and 2, where they implanted the sperm different ways with 2 and 2. So they said, which 2 do you want to pick? So essentially, we had a 1 in 4 chance of getting this disorder. Essentially, we picked the child that had it. So we chose the 2 embryos, and we actually got pregnant with both, but we lost one.
Oh.
The other one was Mikey. So, you know, I mean, the odds are the other 3 probably didn't have it.
Right.
I wouldn't do anything differently. I love my son, and I think it makes him who he is, honestly.
Well, this is the thing. Now, what's the biggest challenge? Is to get him to eat?
Yeah. I mean, up to age maybe 3, it's a fight every single meal. Try making a newborn eat. Never mind anybody else, you know. I mean, 5, you know, is not that bad of an age. He'll sit there and eat something, you know, relatively quick. You find what he likes that's within his fats, and you give it to him. So, I mean, like we do low-fat pizza even for him. We found to do gluten-free with low-fat cheese works for him.
So he
we
needs
do that.
things with less fat in it.
Yes, because he can't process it.
Because he can't process it.
Few of the there's not too many older, you know, and I say older meaning adults on the group, but it seems like, and we're not sure if this is true or not, but it seems like once you store the fats with this disorder, you don't get rid of them. So in other words, you get overweight and you can't really diet with this. So you can't be too restrictive because you have to eat every so many hours like a diabetic.
So, my God, he has to eat little meals
If he gets
all day long.
overweight, he
can't
probably going to be overweight.
So you have to watch his diet. Does he have to eat often?
Yes, every 4 hours awake, and now he's up to 12 hours of sleep, so he could sleep through the night. As of age, I think it was 3, we started. So, you know, we were waking him up every 2 hours when he was newborn, then we went to 2 1/4, 2 1/2. We did small increments. The way we found out that we couldn't go over that was when we tried to wake him up and he wouldn't wake up.
Oh.
So we found out, it's like playing a game with your child.
Oh, my God. It
With
has
his life.
to be so unnerving.
Oh, it was horrible. There was a couple times I couldn't wake him up. I was trying to force feed him something. We're packing the car ready to go to the hospital. You know, if they don't get a saline drip with dextrose, sugar,
So
right away.
He needs the sugar, but not the fats.
Yes.
He needs to keep up with that. And how old is he now?
He's just turned 5.
He's 5 now.
Yeah, and he loves fitness because of me now, which is great because, but the thing is, like if he does sports or anything, they have to be right there with a snack. Like we met a family from Boston on the support group because there's not too many. Their daughter, they have twins. Their daughter has it, their son does not. So, which is really bizarre, but she has a slightly different disorder called SCADD. We met them online, so we decided to go to Mystic and, have fun so the kids can meet somebody who had a special belly, because that's what we call it, like them. So we met up and we had a fun time. Well, we made a video of a whale teasing the 3 kids.
Oh, I
that
saw
went viral.
that on YouTube.
So
that
the fatty
was so
oxidation
cool.
disorders have gotten a lot of press now because of that, which is
Yes,
great.
yes.
Because that's the reason we were there.
Yes, and it must be fun for him to meet other children that.
Yeah.
So he's not like the only person that has to eat a special diet.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so many people on special diets.
That's the thing. Every person, like you were saying, you're a diabetic and have hypothyroid. I have asthma and hypothyroid. Well, he has the FOD, and now he's an asthmatic too. And he's pre-diabetic. I didn't tell you that. So yeah, so try to balance having extra carbs and sugar versus not. It depends on which affliction is bothering him more at that moment.
That's a real toughie because the fats wouldn't have hurt him with just the diabetes alone, but now it's hurting him. The sugar is going to go raise the blood sugar. Carbs are going to raise the blood sugar.
Yeah, but he needs that to survive. So
you
keep juggling
need
that
those
constantly.
kind of things that just have a slow rise of blood sugar. Oh, that's.
So like when I send him he goes to preschool at a daycare right now, I send him certain foods according to the time of day. Like, when he first wakes up, he has high protein, high carb. Then his morning snack could be low carb. And then his, lunch could be higher carb, afternoon lower carb. You see,
You have to.
So I'm kind of fluctuating him all throughout the
And
day.
he eats about 6 times a day?
Yeah.
About 6.
And God forbid he goes through a growth spurt, then all bets are off. So
then he's going to eat
we have to
more and you
recalculate.
have to recalculate.
Yeah.
But then
sometimes
how
more
do you,
often.
And then how do you force a child to eat?
You don't sometimes. I mean, and to be brutally honest, he's been hospitalized 5 times now because you just can't make a child eat sometimes.
So then they just have to get an IV of a sort or something.
But now he knows he has a special belly, and he knows that, he knows to alert me when he has an asthma attack. He knows to alert me when he's feeling a little bit hungry, which he usually doesn't feel hunger. That was the other problem. When he was born, he didn't have fine motor skills, when he was like 6 months, because we were constantly feeding him, so he was never hungry, so he never picked up the Cheerios.
Right.
So he didn't have fine motor skills because of that, so we had to work with him with that too. Everything has, another effect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I think that's why I know my macronutrients, and I'm a better, going to be a better personal trainer.
So this all ties in together.
Yeah.
It used to be years ago, I remember.
I was boring till 10 years ago.
Well, used to be many years ago that, I remember as a teenager, I was always worried, like all girls are, young ladies, you want to be thin, you want to be thin, you want to be thin. And so you'd pick up your typical diet book, and it would say, if you're this age and you're this height, these are the calories.
Yeah, not anymore.
And I can tell you right now that I would say, why am I eating? I'm eating 1,500 calories and I'm not losing. Well, I was a pre-diabetic, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
I had a metabolic disorder.
Your body was going into starvation mode, so it was storing as much as it could. And that's what you're supposed to. It goes back to the caveman days.
Yeah.
You have to store your fats for the winter.
Yeah. So there I was. Not really. That chart was not right for me. I had to have my own individual chart.
That's why those books and everything else don't work. I mean, I love, Jillian Michaels' Master Your Metabolism. That was a fantastic book because it talks about stop microwaving with plastics, because that puts chemicals and increases your hormones in your system.
Oh,
And you don't even think of that. I mean, all these things that are normal for us today, you don't think of.
no.
You know, eating the 5 to 6 times a day, you know, I mean, my son's schedule is now my schedule. That's, I think, why I started losing weight too,
Right,
you know,
right.
I mean, you have to do certain things to alter your system, you know.
Right.
I mean, not altering your system, but that's what you should be doing.
Right, right.
It's common sense. It's easy.
Wow.
It's not easy, but it's easy. You know, I mean, it's science. That's all it is.
Well, I tell you, I hate to wake up every morning knowing have to test my blood sugar, have to take my medicine, have to do my thing. My whole life, sometimes I just throw my hands up and say my whole life seems to revolve around what's going into my mouth and what medicines I'm supposed to be taking.
It's
But-
like Groundhog Day, the old
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
It's like the same thing over and over and over again. It's horrible, but you know, at least you're watching it. Some diabetics don't, and
No.
you know, we see a lot of people, you know, losing their limbs and stuff because they're not taking their meds, they're not watching their sugars, they're not, you know, eating properly.
It's easy to get into a pattern and say, I throw my hands in the air, I want to be normal again.
I wish that for my son every day, but it's just not possible.
Yeah,
And diabetes, you could lose a little bit of weight and maybe possibly, you know, get your sugars back to normal and get off meds. A lot of people do. Not everybody does. If it's genetics, it's genetics.
not
I mean,
me,
so
not me. I've lost about over 50 pounds. And
good for you.
Yes, but it hasn't made a difference. I was quite heavy, very,
So
very
just
heavy.
maybe genetics with you, and it just may, and it's horrible.
And I
but-
have to, and I would love, I'm halfway there. I need to lose just about that much more. But
We'll have to talk after the show.
we'll
I'll
have
get
to
you on a
talk-
plan.
We'll have to do that. And so now, what would they go under Facebook to find you? Would they just,
I named my group off of my nickname. My nickname is Mick, M-I-K. So it's called Mix, M-I-K-S, M-I-X. And you'll see a picture of me as the profile. And I do a tip of the day. I do, you know, different recipes. You know, I try to do a lot with kale, you know, all sorts of different stuff. You know, I try to find the different things to change things up because no one wants to eat the grilled chicken and broccoli every day.
Right.
I mean, honestly.
You get sick of that, yeah.
Exercise videos, all sorts of stuff. I want to start putting on my own exercise videos and stuff eventually.
so they can find you on Facebook at Mix.
And it doesn't cost anything. I do everything for free just because I want to pay it forward. You know, like I was telling you before, Dr. Oz, the producers just called me. And they want me on the show to do essentially this, tell my story.
Now, tell us about that. This is exciting.
Oh, it was fantastic. When I started Weight Watchers, I'd already lost some weight, but then I wanted to lose more and get to goal and be a lifetime member. So they were just starting this whole thing to join with Dr. Oz and do what they called it Transformation Nation. If you lost a certain number, or whoever lost the most would win being on the show, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I lost 15 pounds. They asked me to be on the show, but I was in the audience. And then they did the whole finale and everything. And, you know, one guy won. It was a fantastic show. It was really uplifting. Everybody was swapping stories in the audience before the show. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So they had my email already from that. Well, then about 6 months later, they contacted me. I've never told you this part. They want to do like a roast of Dr. Oz. They said, well, do you have scrubs? I'm like, well, I'm an MRI tech. So they went through the whole thing. They said, if you have some raw meat in your house, pretend you're playing with a liver, pretend to be Dr. Oz because he likes to play with body parts,
Right.
organs, and pretend you're Dr. Oz, and in other words, make fun of him. So I did, and they aired it.
Oh, I can
It
just
was
see
cute.
you doing that.
It was
That must
really
have been
cute.
a
Yeah.
riot.
Oh, it was hysterical. I had the purple gloves like he wears and everything.
Yeah.
So I did that. Well, apparently, you know, every so often they'll contact me, you know, but I work a lot. I have my son. It's really hard for me to get on the show. So the producer said, because I pitched this story about, you know, losing weight to get pregnant, my son's fatty oxidation disorder, the viral video with, which you can find on YouTube with, if you look up Beluga teases 3 kids. You'll see it. It's hysterical. Leading up to, you know, losing the rest of the weight. Now I do Spartan races, and you know, which are very high-end races, which I'll mention. But it's, you know, and becoming a personal trainer. So I pitched the story because I want to get, you know, my son's fatty oxidation disorder out, you know, and get more publicity for it. And I also just testified in front of the state legislature for a new bill. So yeah, so that was fantastic too, so to help rare diseases, because there's apparently 7,000 rare diseases that nobody knows about, and my son's is one of them. So we testified to get more, like an advisory council to help us more in the state, and hopefully, I mean, other states are doing it too, you know, to help with whatchamacallit, different things for daily, you know, people that they use different medications. Most of these things are rare diseases, so they don't have things legally diagnosed as helping this disease, because there's so few people that have the disorder. Like I said, my son presents differently than the next kid.
Sure.
So, you know, the insurances won't cover most of the stuff. So there was a bunch of people testifying with different disorders too. So it's, I think, going to the state legislature soon to be, you know, signed into a law. So that'll be great.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
so that's why I want to go on Dr. Oz to get.
Oh, well, and do you know when? A couple of things. Yes, you know that your husband and I and all of us, we go into Hartford to advocate for acquired brain injury and programs and the like. And I just saw on TV today about this 13-year-old girl who wrote a beautiful song about some refugees in a foreign country, and all of a sudden it goes out of my mind. She was a beautiful girl. She sang the song, and I think she was in a competition and won first place or something.
Oh, wow.
It was beautiful like that. And the song said something about the invisible people.
Oh, yeah.
And you know something? I never thought this way before, and I don't fault anybody that goes through their day relatively unscathed in life. They're very lucky. They go through their day not really having to experience the suffering that some do. And some of them go through a whole lifetime without huge crises. Others go through their life where there's one crisis after another. And you get into a place in your mind that if you don't see something, it doesn't exist.
Oh, I actually just did that the other day when I signed my son up for kindergarten. All the other parents, I see them walking in, signing the child up, and walking right out. We were there with the social workers, we were there with the nurse, we were there with the, you know, head of the board, you know, everybody else, because nobody really knew how to deal with my son. They know how to deal with autism and all that stuff. They're used to that. They're not, or cardiac issues even. A lot of kids have heart problems now. They don't know how to deal with him. So I was there for almost 2 hours signing up my son for kindergarten. And the other parents were staring at me for a while because they saw the group around me. And I said it very loudly, I wish I had a child that was quote unquote normal. Like what you just said, go about your day and, you know, don't have to worry when they took their last bite and stuff. I mean, you know, I just, you know, people stare at us in restaurants, you know, because we're pretty much forcing our child to eat. And they give us dirty looks. And I've actually confronted some people. You know, it's like, you don't know what's going on. You know, you don't know who has what.
You see,
he looks normal. He runs around. You wouldn't know he has an issue.
You see, this is the thing that I can't seem to get people to understand. That don't make off-the-cuff remarks about
Don't
people.
judge.
Don't judge.
You don't know what's going on with that person.
Don't look at someone in a checkout line who is on food stamps and bought a steak that day. Don't, you know, stop looking at people and criticizing in order to make your own self feel good.
Yeah. And I've had people rip me to shreds in public.
Yes.
Because I've forced my child. And I've actually said, he has a rare genetic disorder. If he doesn't eat these few bites, he dies.
Right.
And because it's, like I said, it's like a diabetic, but they crash faster. So within an hour or two, he could be gone.
Right.
I mean, he can go into seizures and coma and death within a couple hours. And the last time he went to the hospital, I never met that doctor before. She was in the ER. She no longer works at that hospital. I won't even mention where it is. It's not CCMC. But, you know, we have a protocol that says exactly what you need to do with Mikey. And we have it written by the geneticist, and it has the geneticist's phone number, the nutritionist's phone number. I have the head of pediatrics for that hospital, you know, that's a very close personal friend now. I had her number. I was trying to contact her. She was calling the hospital. The doctor was ignoring her, was ignoring me, was ignoring the letter. My son's eyes started to roll back. He went unresponsive. I flipped out.
Of course you
Because
did.
everybody sees this normal kid and all he has is a cough and puking. And They just assume, oh,
they
he's
don't get it.
fine.
They
And
don't
the
get it.
doctor kept coming up to me and patting my back and saying, it's okay. No, it wasn't. You don't know when you see somebody out in public what their story is.
No,
you cannot assume.
You just don't know. And this is a thing. And we go back to the invisible people. We think that just because it's the United States of America, brain injury, elderly, children, they're put away somewhere and they're well taken care of. That's not always the case, and we're seeing this with our veterans too. But I digress. It's a very raw spot that I have.
Well, like you said, you advocate for the TBI and stuff too. My husband works with acquired brain injury also.
Yes.
And he's what's called an independent living skills trainer, and he just had me take the tests and everything to become one too. And, you know, I mean, I've been doing MRI for 22 years, but, you know, you see, you know, it's psychology with that too, because closed MRIs, everybody's claustrophobic. So I've been dealing with stuff in the psychology field essentially for years.
Right.
But, you know, doing an ILST now, being an ILST it opens your eyes also, because you see how people, you know, look at people who have a disability. You know, in other words, put them away. You know,
put them away and out of sight. And
every single one has something to, you know, give back to the world. You know, I mean,
yes.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's why, you know, like I was saying before, live each day to its fullest. Do everything you possibly can, because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. Like we were saying before, that's how I originally met you, because I voted you into office years ago because I lived in Oxford. And then your first day of service blew up. So.
Yes, right in our faces. I came off of Robert had been brain injured for 3 years. I was honored by the voters in Oxford to be elected their first select woman or person or whatever, or first selectman. We still use that term in Oxford. And my first day in office, 3:30 in the afternoon, I got a call from the health department. And you can tell the rest of the story because you were ultimately part of it.
That's when I was married before. I was living up in Oxford, and like I said, I had a bad marriage, so I was doing Avon. And I was always giving books out, so there was this lady who wanted a book, so I gave her a book. Turned out she was the one that was afflicted with the anthrax in Oxford and died. She was a 94-year-old. Yeah.
Otley Lundgren,
94 years old, and that's how she died. That's horrible. But because I'd given her an Avon book the week before, the FBI found me at my job, which
they can
don't
find
know how.
anybody, can't they?
But they found me, and they came down and said, you know, we need to investigate you because you had, you know, interaction with her. In other words, I said, well, I technically left it in her mailbox, but they had to trace every piece of garbage, every magazine, everything, everywhere she'd gone, everything in her house they had to trace back. So Avon Corporate had to get involved in everything. I was investigated by the FBI for that.
You know, isn't that something?
I was scared.
Well, you know, I'll tell you this, that this would tie into what we're talking about, everything in our lives here.
Live every day to its fullest.
Yes.
94 years old. She's going to the beauty salon and...
Yeah. Well, what I learned about her, I had never met her, but Otley was still going to the hairdresser, still having lunch with her lady friends. She kept a meticulous house. She was a judge's wife and a widow, and she was married to a judge. And I heard she dry cleaned all her clothes, always impeccable. And she goes to her mailbox. She doesn't fall and break a hip.
Nope.
She doesn't have a heart attack.
She didn't get hit by a
stroke.
bus.
Nothing like that. No. Doesn't die of the flu. Nothing like that. She simply goes to her mailbox and opens her mail.
But at least she lived to 94 and lived her life to its fullest.
That's right.
That's why I keep saying, you know, get off the couch, experience life. Because what if she wasn't 94? You know, I mean, what if she was young? Right.
Because that could have happened to a child going to a mailbox.
Yeah.
And what I would say, I have to say this on air, if people, it is my wish someday that we name something in Oxford after Otley Lundgren.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Something meaningful, something that shows that you should live every day of your life to the fullest, because the quality and tranquility of one's life can change in a nanosecond, and so could all our viewers' lives change like that. You can find yourself one day on welfare and never thinking you're going to be on it. You could find yourself one day crossing the street and now you have a brain injury and now people look at you in a different way. You can find all those things happen to you. It's a lesson I learned the hard way. It's a lesson I wish I had never had to learn. I might like to keep my head in the sand. I was happier that way sometimes, but it's a lesson. It's a lesson that's made me who I am today. But let's get back to you and Dr. Oz, though. This is exciting. Do you know when you're going to be with on the?
No, actually, the producer's supposed to call me today, so I don't know. I mean, it's just being pitched, so I don't know if it's going to definitely happen, but that would be fantastic. I've met the man. He's incredible, absolutely incredible. Like I said, you know, I started with Weight Watchers and watching him and watching Biggest Loser, and it just snowballed from there. And, you know, I really agree with a lot of things he teaches. You know, he doesn't really make anything off of it. He's really, again, paying it forward. I would love to be like him, you know, I mean, just to pay it forward.
Well, and I also know that he, even though, and this is just like what we said, we just don't know what our genetics are. Now, here's a man that obviously is a doctor, took care of himself and all, and he had an issue. I think colon. He had something going on there where he had to have some surgery. If I'm mistaken, I apologize to Dr. Oz, but I think that, like every human being, you aren't going to be, whatever you're prone to is going to happen.
Genetics are genetics. You cannot run away from them.
And he took care of it in time, and he's still going strong, and whatever it was. I don't want to say what it was, but I know he had some kind of serious situation.
I don't remember exactly what it was, so I couldn't even say.
Yeah,
but
something he had to talk about. But what I'm saying is that he's there, and he's showing people that you have to be healthy, you have to eat right, there's things to do. Now, I can't resist this because unless there's something else that you need to talk about. But can I ask you, I think there's a lot of diabetics out there and a lot of people, and I know you're not a doctor, but if you could give someone like me, because you're on my show, I think I'll take a little bit of free advice. How's that?
well, that's the problem when you have. First off, like I said, everything has to be personalized. So I'd have to know, you know, height, weight, activity level, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I'd have to plug it into a calculator and figure out what you should be eating a day.
Right.
Because it's according to activity level, honestly, and weight and all that. But also, the thing is, when you throw something else into the mix, like diabetes, that throws things. Like I talked about my son, he's pre-diabetic and the FOD, so you go back and forth. But
And
with
then, of
you,
course,
you
by
have to
thyroid.
avoid your carbs. You have to avoid your sugars.
Right.
But the thing is, like we said before, you have to have carbs to function. You have to, or else you're going to get crabby. You know, you're going to shut down. You're going to go into like a starvation mode. You're going to plateau. You're not going to lose weight. So really, I would have to. I never give advice to somebody who has like a major medical issue unless, you know, you speak to your doctor also. But
Right.
I would write you a plan, and then I'd have you take it to your doctor.
And see what they say.
Yeah, so average, I mean, my guesstimate would be probably about 1,500 calories a day, probably about 200 carbs, probably about maybe 100 grams of protein, and about 50 grams of fats. That's my guesstimate without using a calculator.
Right, right.
But then you have to change it according to, you know, your diabetes. The thing is, the main thing I would recommend is, and I recommend it everybody, eat the 5 to 6 times a day. So you keep your sugars even keel.
Right.
You don't want them to fluctuate either way. You want to keep them even keel. You want to, you know, keep them at a certain level. So, I mean, you already test your blood sugar, so you'd be safe. 1,500 calories might not work for you. I'd have to check it. But I would also probably tweak your carbs down from the 200.
We'd have to
But
see.
you'd have to distribute them equally. Like most people, I say, do a little bit heavy for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then your 2 snacks a day, or 3 snacks, depending on which one I put you on. Your 2 snacks a day, you can go a little bit lighter. But with you, you'd have to go pretty much equal carbs.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people drink their coffee and then go out the door. You can't do that.
I need
in the morning.
I need a little protein there, a little carb.
Egg whites, like a little wheat bread. You know, and I'm saying carbs, but healthy carbs. Okay, your whole wheats, your oats, stuff like that.
You know, that's always been
Quinoa. Quinoa is a fantastic thing. Nobody even knows about it still.
Quinoa, huh?
Quinoa. It's
They
spelled Quinoa, I think.
Isn't that in the cereal section sometimes, or do you have
Sometimes different stores put it different places. Sometimes with the rice, sometimes with the pasta.
quinoa?
Yeah. If you Google it, there's a lot of recipes. I like to. You boil it like a rice, but then I put like chopped tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, whatever vegetables you like. In other words, saute that in a little bit of olive oil. I usually like the sprayers because you use a lot less oil.
Right.
Healthy fats, like I said, anything you eat, your carbs, your proteins
Can you
should
get
be healthy.
olive oil in a spray?
You could buy it in a spray, but I usually buy, like I bought the Weight Watchers one, but there's a ton of different brands. It's just a canister and you just fill it. It's cheaper that way.
Oh, and then you spray it.
Yes.
Oh,
You literally pump it and
Oh.
spray it.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's like the
yeah.
old hairspray pumper thing.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, I don't think they have them anymore, but yeah, you pump it up and then you spray it. So you use like maybe a tablespoon and you saute the vegetables and then you throw the quinoa on top. So, I mean, honestly, I would recommend stuff like that for you.
Well-
But like I said, I'd have to do a personalized plan. I'm just taking my nutritionist boards. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Or not with a grain of salt.
So you've done a lot here. You're an independent living skills teacher for a brain injury, which, believe me, I know with my son having an acquired brain
It's
injury,
hard.
that those teachers are so essential to helping people get back into their community and not end up warehoused in convalescent homes and all. That's what we try to fight against because we know that heals. You're an expert on your son's condition. You yourself
An
have-
advocate now for it.
and an advocate. You've overcome your weight problem and your genetic problems.
I do
you're-
MRI and radiology now.
Yeah.
Well, not now, that's the first thing. But
yes, and I of course noticed that you were born with wonderful communication skills. You
I can talk.
You can talk, and that's good for me. Interviewing people who don't want to talk is not that easy. So you have that.
I've gone from 5Ks to marathons. I'm doing Spartan races now.
Oh, what's a Spartan race?
Oh my God. If you ever get a chance to do a mud run, it's called a mud run. They go anywhere from 3 miles to 13 miles. And every like so many feet or whatever, they have an obstacle. It's like the Army obstacles where you you could jump over fire, you could climb a 10-foot wall, you could climb a 20-foot rope and ring a bell, which I finally got a chance to learn how to do that.
Wow.
Whatchamacallit, I mean, there's all sorts of rope climbing, stuff like that. I just did one at Fenway, and they actually had you on the field. I'm a huge Red Sox fan.
Oh.
And they have you on the field climbing ropes and all sorts of stuff. And I got to see, you know, the green monster and touch it and,
Wow.
and climb up the green monster on a rope.
Are you a natural athlete, or can you
No,
just?
I was a
learn this-
couch potato until 4 years ago.
And-
Honestly,
and-
Kathy, I
and
never did any of this stuff.
Really? Because there are people that are born naturally athletic.
no, not
they
me.
can do almost
My
anything.
asthma flares up every so often. Like, you know, the Fenway one, it was in November. It was cold and it was really windy. And when you're up at the top of the bleachers, because you go up and down the bleachers with like sandbags and stuff,
Right.
I was feeling it.
Wow.
I was really feeling it. I had to take a few hits off my inhaler. But now I'm placing in triathlons. I'm placing in 5Ks. You know, I mean, I was 4th woman overall in a 5K last November. You know,
Oh, my
so I'm
goodness.
actually doing it. So if, in other words, everything I'm saying is, if I could do it, and I was dry heaving after 10 seconds of running, and now I'm a personal trainer and could do these things, anybody could do it.
Well, you know, that's a wonderful note to end on, and my time is starting to run out. So what I would like you to do is to tell people where you are on Facebook, and of course they probably could just go Facebook and put your name in also.
Yeah, and you could find
and
me.
you can find you. So let's go through all the things they need to know about how to see your Facebook site, how to speak with you if they want through Facebook.
You could find me on the Facebook group. It's MIKS, mix, in other words.
Right.
Because it's a mix of everything. You can find me on YouTube with the viral video. Beluga teases 3 kids.
Oh,
and
that
my
was
email's
fun.
on there too. My email is Mix Agility Fitness, MIKS AGILITY Fitness, FITNESS,
Okay.
at gmail.com, or just look me up, Michelle Cotton, on Facebook. I help everybody for free. I mean, I'm really just trying to pay it forward at first. You know, I just want to get as much as I can out there. And, you know, like I said, I'm going to start loading on the YouTube site. If you look me up on YouTube by Michelle Cotton, you'll find all of the videos and stuff.
All the videos
and
of
the
you.
videos of the Spartan races. I put a camera on my head, and you could see me run through Fenway.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's cool.
Oh my gosh.
So just to experience Fenway, going to dugout and everything with me, it was cool.
Well, we'll be watching for you. And again, if you can't remember everything that Michelle said, remember her name is Michelle Cotton. That's very easy. Michelle, First Lady Michelle, Cotton shirt.
Yeah.
Michelle Cotton.
There you go.
And what I want to do now is tell my listeners that I am so happy that you watched our show today. I'm so pleased that you were able to join me. And
Thank you for having me on.
Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing or hearing when you end up back on Dr. Oz.
Thank you.
And so I would just say that thank you for watching. Have a good day, and hope the next day is even a better day for you. Take care, and have a good day again, folks.